And we'll have a full match report of the Firebirds' historic win later in sport. After a week of criticism over the treatment of children in the Northern Territory's youth detention system, attention has turned to solutions. Indigenous leaders and the federal opposition leader have used the Garma Festival in northeast Arnhem Land to point out that for decades governments have ignored recommendations on how to keep young people out of the justice system. But as Jane Barden reports, the federal and Northern Territory governments have denied they've cut funding for youth diversion programs.
At the Garma Festival's Youth Forum, these children are Indigenous Australia's hope. Kids from all over Arnhem Land, engaged, inquisitive and nurtured by their parents, met their peers from Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane.
I love my culture and I love sharing it with everyone that comes here every year.
But many Indigenous leaders here have watched families break down and their children sent to youth detention centres, places they've now learned are not safe.
We've got petrol sniffers, we've got people who breaks into the shops and anywhere else, and honestly, we don't want to send them to a four-wall prison.
Bandak Marika wants families and communities given more support and youth justice diversion programs to keep young people out of detention.
People need to think about, all right, how can we help this family? How can we work with them one-on-one?
The federal opposition leader pointed out that solutions for keeping children out of detention have been recommended by numerous inquiries since 2007.
A lot of these solutions have already been proposed, but if you cut social services to the bone, if you don't provide options for the courts, for the police to help send young people in other directions, then we are creating the circumstances of inevitable failure.
Bob Beedman made some of those recommendations.
I'd like to see the money spent in a more intensive program of working with parents to encourage them to parent better, to address what I see as a widespread failure of parenting. And it's that failure of parenting that's seeing kids on the street and getting into strife and ending up in Dondale.
Instead, youth diversion programme funding has been cut. Will you now find money for those programmes, or are you going to wait another year for this Royal Commission to tell you that again?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's reasonable just to accept broadly that we don't have any programs. That is clearly not the case.
Well, the calls are listened to and there's a lot of programs out there.
The opposition and Aboriginal leaders had wanted 2 Indigenous members to join Brian Martin on the Youth Detention Royal Commission, but the government has ruled that out. The Indigenous Affairs Minister says the Royal Commission won't further delay movement towards solutions.
The Royal Commission, I hope, won't take a year. I understand it's sometime in March next year. But in the interim, we are continuing to speak to organisations.
For Indigenous leaders, the solutions can't come soon enough. Jane Barden, ABC News, Arnhem Land.